My name's Dr. Cheryl Meier, and today I am live in my office, and I'm going to talk to you all about addictions. I'm going to just get started, so as people come in here, I might be repeating some of these things for people, but mostly I'm going to make this for whoever's here, and then whoever comes in later. Let's see if. As you come in here, feel free to put your name if you want to. I know it's hard for a psychologist sometimes, your name and where you're coming from, so that we can just know that. um, there. Okay, so I got a call today, and I wanted to answer the person's questions and stuff, whether it's a client or whoever. I'm not going to reveal that, and so I can't be your psychologist online, but just some basic things came up, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize, because I study this all day every day for years. I've been a psychologist for over 20 years, what people know and what they don't know. And so I want you guys to know this, and instead of just calling one person back, I was like, I'll just make a video for all of us, because I want all of us to be in the know, so that you don't have to be. All right, the first thing that comes to my mind, as a person, as a psychologist, as a person that just cares deeply for others, is that when you are under an addiction, any kind of addiction, whether it's to a person, welcome, whether it's to a person or a substance, or, I mean, people can be addicted to church. I don't know, people can be addicted to all sorts of things, to lying, to shopping, to trying to get their worth through social media. And so there's all sorts of hidden addictions that people don't realize they're acting from. And so when we're under an addiction, you are a soul in a body. All right, so I'm going to talk about the spiritual components as well. Is you are a soul in this body, and so you have an eternal purpose. Now, you don't have to agree with me on this, but this is just my understanding of life in this place, that we are on earth, right? And so if when you remember that you are a soul, it helps you get out of addictions. It helps you become the observer of what's going on, instead of just a victim. When we're in addictions, I heard someone say this the other day. I loved it. They put a post, and it says, they were talking about sin, but if you look at it just like addictions, right? Is it the addictions, whatever we go to? I used to tell my kids, like, people don't go, I can't wait to grow up and be an alcoholic or an addict of this or that or whatever, right? And so it's first, whatever it is, it fascinates before it assassinates. All right. So that's just one thing you can remember, is that addictions will fascinate at first, and they seem like they're going to be harmless, and, oh, I can control this, and I'll only use this for a little bit, or it's so subtle, sometimes you don't even realize you're entering into an addiction. But I'm so passionate about getting people free from addictions, because what you're doing is you're giving over your sovereignty. I believe that the creator created all of us, and that you have a high purpose for being here, and you're meant to be sovereign. You're meant to use your mind and be rational and aware and expansive, and you have all these gifts built in you that you're meant to activate. And so if we are actually, which, you don't have to agree with me again, but if we are in this world, and Ephesians 6 is in effect, and you don't have to understand what that is, but it's talking about that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual powers and principalities. And so what I was saying was, this person that was bringing up addictions with me was like, oh, well, there's this cartel type of people in this certain area. I won't name what area. And it's like, we would never get involved with them, because then they have information about you, and they try to blackmail you and all this stuff. And I'm trying to be discreet about what I say on this platform as well. But it's so weird, because as soon as this person, he or she, was saying this to me, I was thinking, well, this is exactly what it's like in the spiritual realm. Is there's just Now it's very hard to put into words sometimes, and I've been working here as a psychologist. I'm in my office today. So for over 20 years. And so I'll talk to my clients a different way than I'm going to talk here, because it just depends if they come in with a religious orientation or not. But whether or not, it is like that. It's like you're giving your power away to some other entity and some other substance. The substance, let me put it this way, is I was taught that whatever you're bowing, and I was taught through really out there, like writings from the 1400s and stuff, St. John of the Cross, Ascent of Mount Carmel. I learned all these psychological, I just apply it through my psychological framework. He talks about whatever you're bowing down to, all right? In an addiction, you're bowing down to something. Whatever you're bowing down to, you become like that thing, or you actually become less than that thing because you're holding that thing on a pedestal higher than yourself. And so pedestal. And so let me read this definition of addiction that I wrote down. It's so important. It's like if you understood this definition, then it's like that in itself could help you deal with every addiction that you deal with. So welcome all of you that are in here. Feel free to push the thumbs up so other people know to come to this video too. But this is from Eckhart Tolle in his book, The Power of Now. And I don't agree with everything that he says, but he's got this thing about addiction so well, right? He says every addiction arises from an unconscious refusal to face and move through your own pain. All right. So every addiction starts with pain and ends with pain. Whatever the substance you are addicted to, alcohol, food, legal or illegal drugs, or a person, you're using something or somebody to cover up your pain. All right. And so that's Eckhart Tolle from The Power of Now. Let me read it one more time. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. It's really simple. I'm reading this so you understand that if you choose to have courage and be kind to yourself, they say that shame fuels addictions. And so a lot of us that go into addictions, we're very perfectionistic, and that's why we fall for them, because we're so hard on ourselves, and so we feel a lot of shame. And also we often took in shame from our childhood, from other people. They put their shame on us and we accepted it because that was our way to survive in childhood. That was our way to please them. And I just made a video, it's going to be posted tomorrow, that's my plan, on what we do when we go into our fear responses: fight, flight, freeze, and all those things. I added 2 extra ones on that. But and so, all right, so listen to this really, really carefully again, so you understand the basis of this, so that you're not hard on yourself, so that you're loving and kind, but you get out of this, because you're not meant. Thank you. Jesus died for you as well. That's all I'm talking about is this, right? Is is someone just wrote in the comments, Jesus died for you. And it's like, yeah, understand that kind of love. Understand that Jesus said, I came to give you life and give it to you abundantly. And so this is about life, taking your life back, because you're not meant to be a slave to any kind of addiction. And so he not only came to, he said, he quoted that to set the captives free, to set you free, and to give you eternal salvation, of course. But I'm speaking here as a psychologist as well, is that you are meant to be free in your life and have your freedom from addictions. You're okay. So the animals go by instincts, and what an addiction does is it gets you trapped in these instincts. It gets you pulled in to this lower part of your nature, to your flesh nature, instead of to your soul that God created you to have, this eternal soul. All right. Okay, so now this person's sort of I'm having I don't have any administrators helping me right now, but this person's sort of taking over the chat. Hi, Lisa. If I could figure out on my phone, I'm doing this on my phone, I would make you a person so you could block that person that keeps, it's kind of like spam texting Jesus, which is weird, but that's okay. So I'm gonna read this addiction again. Welcome. I'm so glad you guys are here. Um, all right. So here's the quote, right? That just inspired me and my other friend wanting to give him or her answers, this person in one place so that we can all know about how to deal with addictions. So one is make sure not to shame yourself. Two is that um understand that there's definitely a spiritual component under this, that you are a soul and you're not you're meant to operate in freedom. God meant us to operate. We're created in the image and likeness of God. You're meant to operate in freedom. And when we give ourselves over to addictions, um all right, that's so weird. Okay, I don't know where these religious spammers are coming from. Interesting. Okay, so anyway, everyone else that's liking this, make sure to push the thumbs up. All right, so it says, every addiction arises, and thank you for the hearts, right? Every addiction arises from an unconscious refusal to face and move through your own pain. Every addiction starts with pain and ends with pain. Whatever the substance you are addicted to, alcohol, food, legal or illegal drugs, or a person, you're using something or somebody to cover up your pain. All right, and so um, let's understand that when we go to addictions, we are running from some core pain unconsciously, like he's describing. That was from Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And so, what I was saying earlier was, I don't agree with all of his other philosophical conclusions, but he's really good at describing what addictions are. So, if you understand, when you have the courage to to learn how to withdraw yourself from the pain, right? I mean, from the addiction, then what you'll do is you'll start surfacing what the pain is. You'll understand. Like if someone goes to online things, let's say, men in particular go to this. If they do, it's kind of like, what's the want underneath the want? What are you trying to solve by doing this? Um, any of us, right, so there's no judgment here. It's like, when any of us get in this pattern of feeding our flesh, and you keep feeding that part of yourself. Let's say you have soul nature and a flesh nature, and in the church they describe it as the world, the flesh, and the devil. Is like, those are the three enemies. So that you don't worry if you're not religious, just understand this, that they are describing this so that you can know what the enemies are, actually, that there are spiritual components in this. That's why I wanted to bring it up. I always bring it up. I went to a graduate school for psychology that combines all of this. So okay, yeah, thanks for sharing this. um yeah, okay, self-loss. Yeah, I was trying to all right, so I was friends with this musician called named Elliott Smith, and yeah, Christian Brother is going to take him down. I think I sang that song once, and so yeah, it totally reminds me of the book this by Saint John of the Cross, The Ascent of Mount Carmel. The Ascent of Mount Carmel is a book by a monk, Saint John of the Cross, from the 1400s, and he's talking about how to become detached. He's called the Doctor of Detachment by the church. And so it seems like an unlikely place where you can get an understanding of how to not be in your addictions, but it helps you go through the dark night of the soul. Because the dark night of soul um, is sometimes what we go through when what we were counting on before. Let's say you fall in love with someone and you think they're going to love you, and then they totally bail or ghost you, or run away or whatever. Then all of a sudden it brings up your own attachment issues, and why you kept thinking you had to be attached to that person, and why you don't know. It brings up, actually, your insecure attachment with divine love, with God, and um And so what happens is all of this pain starts surfacing, and you just want to do anything you can, run away from it, but you can't run away from it. That's a side thing. Okay, so if you're dealing with someone, um wow, wow, I've never had religious spamming before, so I'm doing my best to concentrate with you guys. All right. If you religious people want to understand where I'm coming from, you can just watch. I have 55 videos on a Christian woman, Evelyn Underhill, that talks about mysticism and your relationship with Christ. And you can just go and watch those, or watch all of my videos with George MacDonald books. Anyway, so back to addictions. When you're dealing with someone with addictions, or you have them yourself, then, like what I was saying, is when you have the courage to go in and look at what is my pain about, what is surfacing in this. What is my want underneath the want? It looks like I want this thing. But if you stop and you ask yourself, what am I really wanting? Let's say I want to go start a new Instagram profile, and I want lots of people to like that or something. It's like, what is really, I'm just making something up, right? Excuse me. What is my want underneath that want? Am I wanting validation, and am I wanting people to think that what I do is important here, or whatever? And it's just like, once you start learning about your real worth, and understand that you have gifts put inside of you by the creator, and you have an eternal purpose for being here. I know those sound like words sometimes, but once you understand that, then you'll stop wasting all your time giving it away to these addictions, or to these exterior things that aren't gonna, you keep seeing. Look, if you keep seeing that you're going in a circle, that any addiction you go to keeps leading you back to this circle, then you'll start understanding, oh, that's not going to give me what I want. That's an illusion. That's another illusion. And so you start seeing that these things are illusions. All right, Lisa, right? Oh, Mark, welcome. Uh, yeah. Thanks for being here, Mark. I'm glad you got to be on a live. It's fine that you have a teaching. All right, so, all right. So let's understand this. So when you practice the muscle, of going to addiction, it's not only that addiction that is entrapping you. Actually, it's practicing that muscle of returning back to that same addiction, and instead of taking the high road, you're taking this path of least resistance, like in one of Eliot's songs, right? And so you're teaching your brain, if our brain has neural pathways, you're teaching your brain to go in this direction. Now it's really important to understand, get to the bottom of why we do that. Understand why we do that. We do this because when our parents took shortcuts in childhood, they taught us, you're not worth a higher solution. You're not worth a better solution than us yelling at you, or us demanding perfection from you, or us expecting these things, expecting you to make us feel better about ourselves. And so ask yourself, what am I trying to get from this addiction? What is my want? What is my want underneath the want? And so, okay, so Lisa was asking, and I'm not going to say your last name or anything, but you were asking about how to deal with other people or friends that are dealing with addictions as well. So I wanted to address that. That was one of my main purposes for being here, because I was asked this question earlier today by someone. I'm like, I'll just put it all here. Is, Okay, this is going to sound like cheesy, but I learned this from my mom, and she worked as a therapist of some kind before, and she said, so we grew up in Texas, so it's going to sound like Texas, right? It says she says the closer you get to Wellsville, the weller your feller will be. All right? And so oftentimes we can say it a different way. Gandhi said it is you must be the change you wish to see in this world. Or Jesus said the same concept, right? Is take the log first out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to how to remove the speck out of your brother's eye. Now, oftentimes we don't realize it. This is what this was saying is this it's every addiction arises from an unconscious, you're not conscious of this, refusal to face and move through your own pain. And so there's often someone that has like covered up addictions, right? Yeah, I get it. Right, Lisa? Is like we have covered up addictions where we're addicted to like working long hours or trying to help people all the time or whatever it is. And or more socially acceptable addictions. And and so ours are more hidden, and but we're trying to please the other person that's addicted, and so it's like it looks like their life is chaos and everything. But if you understand, I did a video called identify your leaks, and there's like a bucket on the cover with holes going through it. So if you can look through my videos and find that, I ought to make it like hashtag leaks so you can find it easier. But when we keep trying to save somebody else that's not willing to do the work, then we can get addicted to trying to help them and keep buying into their story and keep um, falling for it. Now, it's the reason why we fall for it, right? So you understand, is because they've fallen for it, is they believe there's in addictions, like I said earlier, so I'm so glad that someone posted this on their YouTube, is like addictions, they fascinate us before they assassinate us. And so they look appealing, they look like they're going to work, and that person keeps thinking, okay, just think for all of us, right? And this is the easy way to see our own addictions is if you are just binge watching TV, some part of your brain keeps thinking, "Oh, if I just watch another show, I'll feel better." I felt better from that. Then it's like, and then you start avoiding reality because you're entering into that addiction. That you're avoiding your own pain. And if you take a moment, right? This is something you can do right now, right? While we're on this live. Is if you take a piece of paper, right? And you just write, what is the pain that I'm running from? I feel like watching 8 hours of TV or eating all this food or going to whatever addiction is your choice, your choice addiction. I go to this, or I even, it's hard for me to be silent. I'm afraid to be silent because, and just ask yourself this open-ended question. So I don't like entering into silence because, and I'll just go through what's coming up in my head for, which is probably my stuff and other people's stuff. It's just like, I imagine that no one will be there, right? And so we keep our lives busy, or we keep, even if we're busy doing work, or we're busy trying to help other people, or gossiping about how messed up their life is, right? That's an addiction in itself. It's just like, or people are afraid if I enter into silence that all these thoughts will come up, and just notice, like, you are the noticer of these thoughts. You're not your thoughts. That's just the programming from your childhood. That's just programming that comes up. And so there's like a psalm that says, I think it's 49:10, that says, be still and know that I am God. And so when you dare, this is a courage thing, right? When you dare to get silent and stop running to some of your addictions or all of them, then, oh, I love it. C.S. Lewis says in this book called Mere Christianity, he says, at first we keep failing when we stop those addictions, but the main thing God is it feels like God is not helping us. There's not enough help for us to get through to get to the other side. Because, and now I'm going to bring up God. I know it offends people, and sometimes people leave when I do, but even AA, which has been so successful and helpful for people, is the first step is I came to believe that a power greater than me could restore me to sanity. Well, actually, you have been in an addiction. Like, let's say it's to a certain plant, right? You have been setting this thing up. Like, you're going to get your worth and your answers from this. And so when you do that, you're bowing down to this and you're becoming less than whatever you're addicted to. All right. And so when you let go of that and you actually worship the creator that created us, the creator is love, God is love, and God will empower you to start overcoming this thing, because you're getting your worth from something that brings you up higher, out of a state lower than a plant, higher than even a human being in the normal sense. You're being brought up to a higher level of consciousness, if you want to call it that way. You're bringing, um, if you see, Jesus says, I come to set the captives free. You're meant to be set free from your addictions, but also set free so that you can focus on your eternal path and your eternal purpose for being here. You have a higher purpose for being here. Now, let's just say, for example, that there is an enemy of our soul, and this enemy was this high angel in heaven and fell from heaven. And so now it's just miserable, and all it has is to tempt people on earth. And my friend Elliot made this song that was called Miss Misery, and it was like, do you miss me, Miss Misery? Do you miss the misery that we shared together? And he went through all of these dynamics. He's just a profound thinker, and I just, it was beautiful to have this friendship with um, Elliot Smith, in case people look for this video later. I'm not trying to name drop. It's just, anyway, he's so good at describing addictions. In one of his songs, he says, I'm flirting with the flicks. He's not but any of us, flirting with the flicks. You say it's just for kicks, but you'll be the victim of your own dirty tricks. And so that's the same thing that I was saying, as these things, these addictions, they fascinate us before they assassinate. No, if there's an enemy of our soul, what this enemy wants to do is take you down and keep you stuck in this loop, because that's all it is stuck in. Uh, he wants you, he wants to control you, because somehow they get energy from that. I don't know how to describe all of it, but just keeps you stuck, never focused on your eternal, just worshiping the things of this earth. So let's say, even if you're worshiping money, and um, any of that can be taken away from you in any moment. And so that's like a piece of paper, right? And so you're bowing down to something and making it higher than yourself. And so back to what I was saying about earlier, is the closer you get to Wellsville, the weller your feller will be. Is when you're noticing this addiction in this other person, understand you're being codependent, and you keep trying to fix them for whatever reason. Let's understand again. I keep trying to fix them. I'd rather not deal with my own secret addictions that I'm not aware of. I'd rather keep trying to fix this other person and see the bad in that person. It's easy to identify in other people. It's a lot easier than our own stuff. But let's ask yourself honestly here, and you can push pause later when this isn't live, or now. I think you can ask, I'd rather focus on them and trying to fix them instead of dealing with my own, because so just be present with what comes up. Is now, and you're not doing this, none of us are doing this on purpose. None of us are like, yay, I can't wait to be addicted to something, right? But I look at it this way. This is how I describe it with my clients: is here's our parents from childhood, right? And we're like this little child. And so we, in this situation, we feel helpless. We can't have, like, if you're 2 years old, you can't make your own macaroni and cheese and warm it up and feed yourself. You have to wait for these giants, these parents, to come in and give you what you're missing. And so in that, we keep thinking that I have to fix this other person in order for me to get what I'm missing, in order for me to feel safe and secure and loved. And so then, let's say when you're in a relationship that's not healthy, let's say, because lots of people can be addicted in relationships. Then when that person turns their back on you, it's like your parent. You think, I have to have this person or in order for me to feel worth. But look, these people are adults and you are an adult. So bring yourself back up. You're not this helpless child anymore. You are an adult. And so once you see that, you're like, wait, I'm a person and this is a person. Why do I keep going to this unavailable person and expecting them to make me feel good or feel safe financially, or um, that I feel loved, or that I feel wanted, or that they're going to protect me, when it's like, ultimately the one source we have is divine love, is God, and no one can take that away from you. And so when you have, this is why step one in AA is, I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, because all of us, every single one of us, are going to be insane when we keep looking to something. um, Even if you're looking at another person, when you're doing that, when you're putting them up on this pedestal, like, my worth is going to come from them, or I'm going to be happy and I'm going to feel relief, or I'm going to feel loved when I get this person to do this and fix them and whatever. When you're doing that, you're making yourself less than a person, actually, because, and when in reality, you are a person and they are a person, all right? And so if, let's understand the nature of love for a second, right? Because they say shame is what fuels addictions. And so love is what heals it and cures it, right? And so if shame fuels addictions, you look at, why do I keep looking to this person? If this is just another person and they have the capacity for love, love always comes from divine, from God. It comes from God and flows through people. And so if they have this capacity, and if when I was a child, my if my parents did that well, then they would have taught me you're worth love by their actions, and you're worth having this love in your life. And so we'll teach you how to connect with divine love, with God, so that this love can keep flowing through you, so that you can always have it and you don't depend on another person. You're, and now sometimes religious institutions will will not even on purpose, but they will pretend like they have the connection to God. But they actually, sometimes, a lot of them, they get into that religious institution because they're so focused on wanting to have this connection with God, that they have spent time being quiet and developing this relationship with God. But it's not, you don't get it from them. They can teach you and help you learn now how to have that connection with God. But when you have that, then when you have this direct connection with God, then you become properly detached. All addictions are disordered desires, all right? So there's nothing wrong with what you're wanting. There's nothing wrong that you're wanting love, that you're wanting security, that you're wanting to feel good, right? Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Lisa. I I I don't go into um right now, I don't at all anymore into like channeled stuff, um because when I found, when you, well, I just talked to this person that was a Native American Christian shaman, and he said he recommended not. But I know there's a lot of wisdom in all those, but he was saying, because again, you're giving your power away to, um, anyway, I won't go into all of that. I just, when you keep opening a bunch of doors, for me, it's like, it it takes me away from hearing from the Holy Spirit. It's like cheating on, anyway. But what he had taught me is so cool. I mean, it's, he was saying that, um, what happens is someone will get some kind of material like that, like what you're saying, and they will, they'll start they'll start following it, and it can, and now I don't mean anyone to be paranoid, but it's like, it will, um, start leading you off. It will give you like 99% truth and all of these profound truths as well, but it will start leading you off 1% this way, after it's gained your trust. But anyway, besides all of that, is understanding, I'm not putting it down at all. I understand that path, because that's where I was before. And so it's understanding that you have a direct connection with God. You can go directly to God, and you when you know that, then you can start looking at your thoughts and you can observe them, and you notice that you are the observer of your thoughts. And so you don't have to follow all of these thoughts that just hook you in and say, oh, I'm feeling so horrible. Well, okay, so sit with your thoughts and your feelings. Or even if something says I have to use, and it's like, really, what's saying that I have to use? Who's the I say that to myself sometimes. Who is the I that's saying that? That can just be a thought from your childhood, where it's like, all right, you can understand it this way. If you are a parent, or you had parents, right? We all had parents. And the parent is like, I have to yell at my child. And it's like, they don't have to yell at their child. But if they got in a habit over and over again of just exploding to shut down their child because their child was triggering them about their own pain that they were not aware of, their own pain body as well, then they kept taking the shortcut. And so what we internalize as children is, you're only worth the shortcut. You're only worth someone yelling at you. It's not possible. We learn from their actions. It's not possible for them to take a higher path. And it is possible. And you are always worth that higher path. And so it's retraining your brain to understand, no, I'm worth the highest path. I'm worth a direct connection with God. Now, of course, I am a Christian, but I don't try to use that like a weapon or anything, right? It's just like, I understand that Christ was always operating in the highest level of consciousness, and so he besides giving you eternal salvation and dying for your sins so that you don't have to hold on to all your shame, you can be reconciled to a perfect God. He wants to free you in your life. You're not meant to be a slave to addictions, because that makes you less than a human soul being. You're more like an animal. When someone called them the other day, I've never heard of this saying before, but they were praying for all of us, these deliverance prayers and everything. And I didn't grow up charismatic at all. Um, but they were saying, remove all these flesh hooks. And I was like, wow, that's such an accurate name. It's kind of like I imagined a bunch of things. I saw a few visions when I was seeing that, but it's like a piece of meat like hung up on a hook with a bunch of hooks on it. It's like, you're a soul, and you have gifts inside of you that you're meant to activate and use on this earth. Now, when we keep going to addictions, then it is like we have hooks that we keep reinforcing that hook onto this. And it's like, oh, I need to watch TV all day, or I need to keep getting my answers out here, out here, out here, out here. Now, I know this is a resource, what I'm offering right now. And there are resources, but understand that it's all resources come from the source. Like, God is love, God is our source. And when you ask God, help me through this addiction, help me, just understand this, all right? Like, what I said at the beginning is, every addiction, this is a quote from Eckhart Tolle, and again, I always say I don't agree with all of his philosophical points, but he understood what addiction is right here. He says, every addiction arises from an unconscious refusal, right? So unconsciously, we're refusing to face and move through our own pain, your own pain. Every addiction starts with pain. Like, when you had a pain, that's why you ran to that substance, and ends with pain. Whatever the substance you are addicted to, alcohol, food, legal or illegal drugs, or a weapon. I mean, no, sorry, that's my handwriting. Or a person. You're not addicted to a weapon. This is a weapon, actually, addiction is, but, or a person. You're using something or somebody to cover up your pain. And why cover it up? Why spend all of this time covering up your pain when you can learn to have the courage? Courage is a virtue, right? There are 4 cardinal virtues. Those are the virtues that hinge on everything else. And they are courage, prudence, righteousness, which is justice, acting justly towards yourself and towards other people, and self-control. Those are the 4 cardinal virtues. Now, I've talked about those in other videos as well. I think my video on the messages in the Song of Greece, I was talking about those. Oh, I started to. Actually, it's going to be in my video that I'm going to put up tomorrow on the 5 Fs that we want to avoid, of like fight, flight, and freeze. But anyway, and so it's like prudence is to know what to do and how much to do something. And so if I actually have the virtue of prudence cultivated in me, it will help me in every area of my life, just like courage will help you. Have the courage to sit and be in quiet and trust that God will help you with whatever pain comes up. Imagine for a second, this is the image that I'm getting, that if like there's a river, all right, if there's a river and all I have to do is cross this river and I won't be hooked in, like I was talking about earlier, the flesh hooks that we have, hooked into all of these addictions, whatever the flavor is, over and over again. Once I and so this river is just my old childhood pain that was so overwhelming when I was a child, that I no longer want to be a victim of. Now, instead of avoiding crossing this river because it looks like a difficult river to cross, I keep going to all these addictions on this side. But once you learn how to cross and get to the other side, it's like you just see you. It's like the Matrix or something. Once Neo understood what the Matrix was about, he knew that they were just trying to tempt him in all these different ways, and he had the way to overcome the Matrix, because you get to a higher reality. And so this is what happens when you actually develop your faith practice and have a relationship with God. And of course I recommend it through Jesus Christ. But um it takes courage to go through this river to get to the other side. And the other side is you're not run by your pain. Let's say someone has pain and they feel really insecure about themselves. And so though they go back and keep trying to please one of their unpleasable bosses, and they work, 10 to 12 hours a day, and then this throws their life off of balance. And so then they start using to try to make themselves feel better because they poured themselves out for this other person. Well, why were you trying to get your worth from this boss in the first place? Did you think you needed that money that this boss had? There's other jobs with healthier bosses. But it's like looking at, why was I trying to do that? Because that's what got me imbalanced in the first place. Understand what's the want underneath the want. What do I think that, write down like 6 things I think this thing or this person, I know there's people in the this community of people that are looking for their lost, not like a loved one, that that is called the runner and the chaser and all that stuff, and you can get so lost in all of that when you actually let go of the person that walked away and just go, that has nothing to do with my worth. What am I doing that I keep trying to get my worth from this other person? That person is just a person. I'm not a child anymore. I don't have to try to fix and please and be afraid of this person in order to get my worth. I am an adult now. And so that's what I was saying earlier, is now I can learn that love can flow from through me, and I can be loving towards myself, and I can learn my true worth. When we keep chasing an unavailable other, right? They looked available at first, just like our parents did. And then when we felt rejected by our parents because we triggered some of their pain body when we got a little older, then we felt rejected, and we keep learning to chase these people. This is like the avoidant attachment or insecure attachment, all those kinds of things. When we did that, we keep trying to get them to come back and say, you're worth loving. And it's like, but now, look, now here's you. And this is the adult part of you, and this is like the child part. And you have this ability to have a loving relationship with yourself. But instead, you're like, hold on, let me go try to get these scraps over here. So you keep repeating the same thing as childhood. And this feels shaming. And shame fuels addictions, all right? And so this feels shaming because you're actually turning your back on yourself and going, let me try to fix this person. And let me keep saying, I would give you love. And here's some scraps, but let me go try to fix this person. And that's actually leaving you without again. And it's familiar, like your family of origin, it's familiar, but it's leaving you without what you're needing, which is love. And so it's like when you turn back around, it's like you're aligned back with the just way of being. Whenever I get lost and confused in all of this, I remember this song they taught me in childhood. All right. So any of this stuff, you can't discern these things unless you're spiritually discerning. And so sometimes people that are in their flesh will just make fun of these kinds of things. But it goes, he has shown thee, O man. So divine love, God has shown you, O man, what is good and what the Lord, the I am, the eternal one, requires of you. Not that God needs anything, but he requires of this of you because he wants you to come up to this higher place where you're acting as the soul being instead of bowing down to a plant or to an unavailable person, which is sort of like bowing down to a robot in a way. They're not, but, and they look like they're going to love you, but just love flowed through them in that moment that they were aligned with you. Now they're cutting off love and you're cutting off love by chasing them. And so here's the verse. I think it's like Micah 6:8 maybe, or Hosea 6:3, or it's one of those two, right? And it says, he has shown thee, O man, what is good and what the Lord, the I am that I am, requires of you, but to do justly, to understand what is justice. That means stop abandoning yourself. You're chasing after this addiction for this high, and you're leaving this wounded child of yourself alone too. You're saying, here's some scraps again. And that's a lack mentality. Okay, so it goes, but to do justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. And so it's like, wow, we could sit, I could go talking, honestly, I could talk for the next 8 hours on the deeper esoteric. It's not esoteric, just means the hidden things that are meant to be revealed to us, right? The revelations of that verse. But I just keep going back to it. And yes, thank you. Yeah, Micah 6:8. Ah, I'm so glad you heard it yesterday. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. He has shown you. God has shown you, because John 1:9 says that every human being that has come into this world has this light of Christ in you. I'm not talking about the Christ light and all that. I'm not talking about any new age stuff or any occult stuff. I'm saying it says the Logos in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and he was the light of life. But that light is in each person. All right, study that. That would be a long study too. And so Plato says it's like, he describes it poetically. He says we came down here and we drank from this pool of forgetfulness, and some people foolishly drank more than they ought to have. And St. Augustine says it this way, is like our hearts are restless until they find their rest in thee, because we are eternal beings. We have an eternal purpose. We have a soul and human nature, right? And so we're meant to feed our soul. And when we keep going to these addictions, you're leaving your soul empty. This is why you get fed when you go honestly and sincerely into the Word of God and sit with it and understand like what Micah 6:8 is here, and go, God has already shown us, it's in me. I have a remembrance. Plato said all learning is just remembering. All right. So you have a remembrance what this is, and you're just waking up that remembrance, and it's coming alive in you. What is good? What you know what's good, because you know when someone does something that's bad to you, you can identify that right away. So what is good? Treat yourself. I got this the other day when I was going through a problem. It was like, oh, treat myself as I would. I don't have a daughter, I have sons, but it's like as I would if I was my own daughter. And it's like, oh, here's how to take care of it. And the answer came immediately, because I was committed to treating myself with respect, dignity, integrity, and also discipline. All right. And so if our parents didn't show us that, then unconsciously, not on purpose, we internalize we're not worth all of those things. But what is good and what is the Lord? God requires this of you because he wants you to, God is beyond he or she. That's in Psalm 27. When my mother and father forsake me, the Lord, the I am, picks me up, right? Because he's this eternal oneness that we come from, right? The I am that I am. And so, but we use the word he sometimes. And so God shows you what is good and calls you to what is good, because God doesn't need anything. God wants us to rise to that higher level so that we're not slaves. Whatever you're addicted to, you are a slave of. And this is why I was saying at the very beginning of this, I'm so passionate about you all of us getting out of all addictions, of the secret ones, and addicted to trying to help other people, is because um, it's slavery. It's slavery, and we're not meant to be slaves. And so the enemy comes, he's a liar from the beginning. And Jesus, it described the enemy of our souls as coming to steal, kill, and destroy. And so he's diabolical. That's where they got the name. And he wants to destroy you. And I don't want people to be destroyed. And so I want everybody to it says, my people perish. That was on my heart this morning. My people perish from lack of knowledge. I want you to have this knowledge of, understand, why are you treating yourself less than you would your own daughter or your own son or your own best friend? Why are you offering yourself? Let's and don't shame yourself, because shame fuels addiction, but let's go to this addiction to try to fill her up. It's like, no, you're worth more than addiction. Let's go straight to divine love, to God, and ask God, please show me how to have a real relationship with you. Show me how Jesus was trying to free me from my addictions here, and free me so that I could activate my eternal purpose for being here. All right. Thank you guys so much for your presence here, and for helping self-loss. Thank you. And I don't understand what that was at the beginning, but I'm sort of still new at these lives, so I'm gonna do my best to stay concentrated. But I only had this hour or so to come on here, and I wish you love. Feel free if you're watching this later. I'm just praying, like, God, I pray for everyone that's watching this now and watching this later, that you help them out of their addictions, help them to stop being addicted to people that are addicted, help all of us to stand up and walk in integrity and learn what is good, and what you require of us, because you love us. Like it says that the God chastises those he loves. It's a correction that's a lot better to be corrected here and then spend eternity in hell, because like C.S. Lewis says, hell will be this thing we created, and we had the key to get out. I mean, God gives us the keys, but like Christ is the key. But we created this hell, and we became addicted to this hell and lost in this illusion that this will keep helping us, when it's actually keeping us from facing our pain. And with God, we can face that pain. And anyway, God, I pray for everyone in the future. If you have specific questions about addictions that you want to ask for a friend, right? I know it's hard sometimes to ask psychologists, but anything you want to ask, and I can either answer it in the comments or collect the comments and make future videos that will be more specific. But understand, if we're addicted to trying to help someone with addiction, you can help people with addictions, but if you keep going to that and draining all your resources on them, then oftentimes it's because I just read a wonderful Meister Eckhart quote that was talking about that. Maybe I'll put it in the comments. It was so good, about how we keep running from one thing to another, and it's an indication that we're not directly connected to God, and that's not an easy thing. It's simple, but it's not easy. Anyway, to do justly, to walk humbly with God in that verse, Micah 6:8, is to say, God, I don't know how to do this. Help me grow in my trust and faith that you do care about me, you do have my back, you do want me to not be a slave to these addictions. Because I wasn't meant to be a slave. None of us were meant to be slaves. And the addictions keep promising. I have a lyric in one of my own songs. It's like, you promised the world and left me with nothing, right? They always look like they're going to work. That's why they're so deceptive. And that's why I like this woman, Latoya Okia, on here. She's like, the devil will clothesline you. It's like you're running and you're happy, and then there's this clothesline that you don't see. And my grandma used to have one, right? And if there's no laundry on it, you get clothesline and you get knocked down again. And it's like his objective to keep knocking you down and knocking you down, so you don't sit up straight and get aligned with your eternal purpose for being here, and your true understanding of what salvation is and what it means to be covered by the blood of Christ, and walk in your authority in Christ and in your power. And even I find just helping people with addictions, not just for this temporal life, but it helps clear your mind to go, oh, wait, I had this misperception of God because I was acting in all these lack and shortcut ways. And I never, like memorize Psalm 23, even just the first verse. The Lord, the I am that I am, is my shepherd. Therefore, I lack nothing. I lack nothing. And addiction always says, you lack this and I will give it to you, right? But it's making you a slave to this thing. And you're not meant to be a slave of anything. All right. I wish you so much love. Pray for everyone that came through here, right? I wish you so much love. Thank you.